Welcome to another episode of Becoming an Artist, Creative Secrets Revealed. And today I'm speaking to the wonderful Danielle Tomlinson, who started off her career as a swimmer, a professional swimmer, and now is a professional artist. And she took that drive and that focus in with her into her art career. And she creates beautiful paintings of wildlife, of animals, really bright, colourful, joyous paintings. So it was a pleasure to speak to her, and I really hope you enjoy this episode. And as always, please go to becominganartist.co.uk to download all of the resources from this episode and all of the other episodes in this series. So I hope you really enjoy this episode, and I'll see you on the other side. Hello. So today I'm here with Danielle Tomlinson, who is a young British artist who creates bold, abstract paintings focused around her passion for wildlife. Before working full-time as an artist, Danielle was competing nationally and internationally for the Olympic Games, Commonwealth Games, and the World Trials. COVID brought a pause to all the training, which allowed Danielle to reignite her creative side. She's entirely self-taught, and Danielle's art business was her first job out of university. And within 2 months, she was earning a full salary. She was now running her 6-figure art business, turning over up to 22k a month, with her paintings flown to collectors all over the world, including the USA, Australia, France, Canada, and many countries throughout Europe. Danielle's buyers discover her work through Instagram and other social media platforms, and she has an engaged and supportive following of 64k collectively. That's loads. So well done, Danielle. Thank you for being here today. So do you still swim, or is that part of your life done, or what's going on with that?
Yeah, I get asked this quite a lot. No, I don't really. Like, I can still, I think it's almost like a chapter closed. And it's strange, like, when you go back to it after being competitive, like, all the reasons why you were doing it competitive kind of aren't there anymore, because you're not racing, you don't have a goal, all your friends are not doing it. And it's kind of like, you just like, it's just not the same. So, like, I will go occasionally, I just say brush off the cobwebs. But yeah, other than that, no, I just go to the gym. I play other sports now. So yeah, that kind of side's gone.
Yeah. Sad. Do you miss it?
I think it's almost like I miss the, I'm really competitive. So I miss, like, sort of that competitive aspect to it. I miss racing, like, big time. Like, when I see, like, sort of the worlds going on, or the Olympics, or even when I know it's the time for, like, British trials, so it'll be like around April time, which I'm just kind of like, like, I get a bit, like, itchy still, because I'm like,
itchy,
who's, like, doing the 100-meter breaststroke. Yeah, who's doing the 100-meter breaststroke this year? I wonder how that's going. And I don't look, because I just, like, even though I didn't get to where I wanted to be in it, so it was kind of like, I closed that chapter due to I just stopped enjoying it, and I got an injury as well.
Right.
And so when I look back, I'm like, I'm still young enough. I'm like, I could do it still, but I'm still young enough. I could go back, but I'm so involved in this now. I'm a big believer in not burning the candle at both ends. So
absolutely. And one thing,
stay focused.
One thing at a time, I suppose. One big thing at a time. And this is a big thing that you're doing. It's a massive thing.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just going to say, I think it's one of those things where if you want to go all the way with something, you need to give something 100% focus. Yeah. So, like, swimming as a pastime is great, but swimming and being able to juggle this at the same time, it's just, in my head, I just wouldn't be able to do it to my fullest of either. So, my paintings, I've got quite a few behind me.
Yeah, they're great. So with your paintings, you mostly do it of animals. So where did your passion for wildlife come from? Have you always been passionate about wildlife? Is that, do you ever paint people, or is it just wildlife? Is it just focused on that? How did it all start?
So I'd say my passion for wildlife came before my passion for art, and both things I had since I was a kid. And I think a lot of us, like, we all were really creative and enjoyed it as, like, a child, and, like, some of us are lucky enough where we can still do it in our adult life and carry that passion on. But like, wildlife for me was that as well. So it was always like, art, wildlife, and like sport. So I've always been quite like a hands-on like sort of person. And yeah, I was brought up. My mum and dad are real like sort of animal heavy like people. So they used to like mum used to work in a vet, so we used to get a lot of like the waifs and strays, and they became our pets and stuff like that. So it started at home with pets, and then it kind of grew as you know you get older, you go traveling, you see these amazing animals. And yeah, so yeah, it was yeah, it's only animals, and I don't know if I'd ever change, because I don't feel like my mission is complete yet. So
totally.
Yeah, but I can paint other things.
Do you ever paint from life with the animals? Do you ever kind of go and sketch them in the zoo, or kind of get a lion into your studio?
Yeah,
or whatever?
so yeah, oh, I wish. Well, maybe not. But I went to South Africa. It was actually for a swim. Funny enough, for a swim camp. When I was like 16, I think. And I brought a little camera. I took loads of photos from obviously from life there, and then sort of brought them home and sketched them when I came home. And this is way before an art career. I actually did it. I used those pictures and the sketches for my actual A level or my GCSE in art. I can't remember.
Okay.
But from life, not typically. I can and I have, but not. I wouldn't say as often enough to be like I draw from life sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's normally just a bit of fun, like if you're in like a park or something like that. So yeah. Because sometimes you want a particular pose. And that animal would like move from that pose, and I'm just like, I need it to stay still. And they always say you can't work with kids and animals because they just don't do as they're told. So yeah.
So do you have a bank of images that you use? Do you have that you kind of go to kind of use as reference material? Is that kind of are you constantly sort of researching and getting these images together, or do you just kind of have an idea and you're like, right, I'm going to do this today? What's the process behind it, I suppose?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. So I'd say I take as many photos as I can myself. So obviously I go away, I do travel a lot. I go to obviously local wildlife sanctuaries and all that stuff. And I try and use my photos when I can. But also just like Google stock images or anything sort of along those lines. But half the time, what I have in my head for the piece, I can never find the exact photo like on Google. So normally it's almost like I almost like splice like maybe like 3 images together. And I'll have them up on the wall as I'm sort of like sketching out. Like, so for example, the line behind me, that was a perfect example. I wanted it face on, but like the body to the side, and like not having it was just very hard to get. So yeah, stuff like that. But yeah, it's normally, I'm very lucky if I can get a photo that's exactly right. But that's just the fun of it. It normally takes a while though to like find the perfect like couple of photos to go and do, because I like to have like with my artwork, I want people to look at it and it be like instantly like recognizable, and I want the dimensions like perfect, like how a lion would be. So going from photos is a lot sort of more real. I can guarantee more realism in that sense, even though my artwork isn't realistic. So that's why I do that, and don't just draw from my head.
Brilliant. And with your style that you've developed, you're completely self-taught, and so did you have that style sort of from the beginning, or what was the process behind you kind of developing that style? Did you go, okay, I like this kind of abstract sort of look of things, I'm going to go and do some YouTube tutorials, or there's kind of like this street art influence as well almost? So just wondering how you brought all those things together, and what the kind of process was of you developing and learning those techniques and that style.
So I really like colour, and when I go and buy my own artwork, that's the first thing I look for. I'm like, is it colourful? Is it going to set a tone for my home? And I guess when I was doing my own artwork, because I'm drawn to colour naturally, it just sort of came naturally. So the vibrant colours wasn't even something I had to think of. It was just sort of, it was a must. It was like, it wasn't going to be anything different other than super vibrant, colourful artwork. And just walking around Leicester, so where I'm from, we've got like the biggest graffiti festival in the country. So walking throughout town, which is where my studio is based as well, I'm just surrounded by like not just graffiti, like pieces of amazing artwork that like you look at them and you're like, wow, that's incredible. Like how has that even been done out of a spray can sort of thing? So I guess sort of that influence, I'm from a city upbringing as well, so from that sort of influence I was like, right, that's why I want to bring the sprays into it. And you know, sprays are so, they kind of, there's like an edginess to them, there's like a boldness to them, and I wanted to do something bold and vibrant to really gain attention to the subjects I'm painting. And the last thing I want to do is people to walk by them, because originally I thought I'd be in a gallery when I first started. Obviously I'm independent now, but I was like, if anyone walks by it, or even in a house, like I want someone to stop in their tracks. But yeah, that's kind of like how it came about. But originally I did like pen portraits. I was like at university painting drawings people's dogs for like 30-40 quid just in pen. And then I was like, I'm not actually happy doing this. That was just for money while I was at uni. And COVID hit, and that's when all this colour sort of came through, and it was obviously a not so colourful time, which is quite ironic, really.
And so with the materials, were you just like, okay, I'm gonna, when COVID hit, when you started using this colour, were you just like, right, I'm gonna go to the art shop, I'm gonna buy all these colourful paints and I'm just gonna go for it? Is that what happened?
Yeah, essentially I was just like, right, so when I was at school, like all I did was GCSE and A level, like I'm not traditionally taught in any way beyond that. And I used to use so much colour at school, and it was kind of like, right, why am I doing these pens? Like, I'm not happy about this. It doesn't like speak to me in any way. And yeah, I just literally was like, right, let's just go raid the range. I think I went to, so I went down the road, just went and raided the range.
That's great.
It's quite funny because so then I just started doing that. And just got all the sort of budget paints and started from there. And then went, and it just rolled and snowballed into bigger, more extravagant pieces instead of little ones. And here we are.
The process of you first starting to make these paintings that you were really happy with, that felt like you and felt like colourful, and you'd kind of figured out these techniques and things. From that point to kind of starting selling your work, there's obviously a bit of a gap there. How did you, I'm just wondering how, because you'd made these paintings, and then how did you get them out to the world? What was the process of you getting them out so people could buy them? Because you said you weren't interested in galleries, or you just didn't go down that route. So what was the kind of steps to get to kind of getting that out there and selling your first paintings?
I think it worked quite quickly, actually. So I graduated from university, COVID hit, and then I made like, I think it was like 2 or 3 paintings, and I was like thinking, right, these are all well and good, I just did them because I wanted to, and I was like, I think I had a conversation with my parents, and I was like, I did sport at university, and I was like, I don't really want to go into sport anymore, I'm kind of done. And they were like, why don't you do your art full time? And I went, how am I going to do my art full time? That's kind of like and they're both self-employed, so I never had that sort of scaredness of going self-employed.
Oh, that's great.
So I've been kind of like not very like risk averse, I guess. So I just Googled, and I was like, how to market artwork. I think that's what I Googled. And there was this online course, literally an online course that came up. I spent all my savings into this course. I think it was like £1,100 at the time, which was like everything I owned, my name. And I was like, do you know what? I thought I actually got scammed like that at first. I was like, oh my God, I think I got scammed. But no, it was a great course. It taught me exactly like, to almost like ask questions about your artwork that not necessarily everyone actually thinks about. And it's like, the most important thing is like why you do what you do, and like really question yourself of like why. And that really helped to sell my art. So within, I think it was a month, I gave myself, so from graduating university, I immediately basically put my money into this art art course, and within 3 months I was making a full-time salary. And I have never needed another job. I've never needed it just kind of worked out. And I think as well, during COVID, everyone was on their phones, everyone had spare money, everyone was doing up their houses, everyone had wanted things, like they had excess money to spend. And I think it was just the right time. Like, if you believe in the universe and all of that stuff, it was almost like right moment, right time. Awful time for everybody, but for me, it was definitely as a catalyst in my career, really. So and then spiraled, and then literally was selling like my big artworks within 3 months of going full time. And then obviously things just go and go and go, and then your social media grows and grows and grows, and it's a little bit easier to move more and stuff like that. So
Brilliant. So who was the first person you sold your first painting to? Do you remember that?
So I definitely remember my first like proper big piece that I'd say is when I first started my career. I don't really count the pet portraits at university because probably my mum, who I did one for.
Good old mum.
You got to start with the family and friends. I remember selling this. It was a grizzly bear to a lady in San Francisco. And that was my first sale, which is a bit insane being it all the way over in America. But I remember it was on Facebook. That's how when I first started selling, I just purely focused on Facebook, because it's essentially with Instagram, I feel like you have to pay in order to like advertise and get yourself out there. It's just a lot of work with reels, whereas Facebook's so easy. I sold a grizzly bear to a lady in San Francisco. I remember it. Yeah, it was on my first. It was so big. I remember like running into my parents, like, "Oh my god, I've just sold this piece!" I always remember that one. Yeah.
How do you package something like that up when it's so big? Because I'd imagine it's quite a big one that you're selling. Did you have to look that up, how to make sure it's okay?
So I'd say like 40% of my artwork goes usually as far as the US. So I made sure I did. So, because obviously I've not got I don't even know if they teach you this at art school, how to package artwork. I assume maybe not, but I literally watched so many YouTube videos. Like so many YouTube videos on like how to pack it, like what to wrap it in, like mistakes people have made that I wouldn't make. But luckily I have other than prints, like where they just get squished in the tubes, like by some tractor, it seems. Other than that, I've never had any problems shipping artwork. And I just, it's either in a large box and it's got ply either side, or just a large box with tons of, what's it called? Bubble wrap. I think there's some behind me. Can't see it.
Bubble wrap,
and then just in a large box, or if it's really big, crated, or if it's really big, you can take it off the canvas. But I always think it's really nice for the artwork to arrive ready, because I know that I always put myself in sort of the client's where they're standing, and I'm like, the last thing I want is an artwork arriving rolled, which then I can't hang up immediately, and I've spent all this money, and then I've got to have the hassle of bringing it to a framer. So if I can, I will always make it arrive ready to hang. And I think that's a nice, just a nice thing. Yeah. You
sound like you're really business minded. You're really considering the end person, the people who are gonna. So is that kind of something that you had from the beginning, or was that the course that helped you with that, or is that how did that come about with that kind of mindset?
I've definitely noticed when I do speak to other artists, I speak in a very different way. And I don't know if it's because I haven't got that sort of traditional background or education. And I just know that if I want to continue doing this long term and actually make a difference in wildlife, I need to treat it as somebody who would, have a business in another area. And I don't see why art should be sort of treated any differently. So I guess it's maybe some quite goal orientated, just from my swimming background as well. I'm like, I've got these goals and this is how I'm going to achieve them. And just painting in my studio is fantastic, but how is that going to make a difference to wildlife? How am I going to get this artwork out there if I'm just sitting in my studio painting and practicing my craft all day? You need to have sort of a day off just to focus on, you know, the business element of things, which is, you know, your reels, it is your photos, it's, you know, things like this. And it's like, yeah, just all the little bits that don't seemingly, like aren't art orientated, they really do matter. And I think sometimes some artists kind of forget about that bit. And yeah, maybe don't want to treat it as a business, but if you want to do it full time, I think you do need to treat it as one. Yeah, especially if you want to be on your own, and not be, you know, with galleries. So yeah, not to take the magic out of it, but
no, but it is important if you want to kind of put food on the table and you want to eat and you want to buy things and you have an okay life. You have to make money from it, and it's just, and that's just fact of life, and that's absolutely fine. One question that I wanted to ask you about that though was, do you ever kind of look at the market for ideas for things that maybe people are buying, or is it all very intuitive with you? Do you do that? Do you research into kind of stuff that people might want, basically?
No, I would. It's strange because, you know, kind of roughly like the animals that everybody knows, and probably like everyone loves lions, everyone loves all this. So like normally, if they would probably typically sell a bit easier, and I think that's just sort of like common knowledge. But honestly, like I've painted some quite like odd things like I never thought someone would want on their wall, and I did it just because I wanted to show sort of appreciation to that particular animal. Like I did a platypus. I went to Australia, did a platypus when I came back. I thought I never thought in my head like someone's going to want this. I literally thought I want to paint a platypus, and that's what I'm going to do. And then lo and behold, it like literally sold like within, I think it was within, I don't know, 3 hours of me sending it out to my mail list. So yeah, it's just kind of like a crocodile. Like, who wants a bright pink crocodile? Like, who's got firstly a house that's going to suit a bright pink crocodile? Not very many people, but it's if they love it and that person loves it, and obviously if you've done a good job of it. Yeah, like again, I did a T-Rex. I did a T-Rex a couple of days ago, and I did a Triceratops, and like, you think, oh, it's a bit childish, like not many people are going to want this brightly coloured dinosaur in their homes, but yeah, I just do it and people seemingly like it, and yeah, there's
brilliant.
no sort of like,
I love a platypus.
Yeah, they're cool, really cool animals. Yeah, they're really cool, but that's weird. The idea moving forward. Yeah, and that's sort of the idea moving forward, like painting these crazy animals that like not everybody knows about. Like when I went to Australia, I didn't even know this, and I'm really sort of in tune with like wildlife, and I know a lot about it. Like a tree kangaroo. Has anyone like and it's the cutest little thing, and it's like, like this mammal has been here for ages, and like I didn't even know about it. So just things like that, they're really cool, and just no one really knows about them, and that's definitely the direction I'd like to take sort of moving forward. So yeah.
And you're really passionate about wildlife. Are there charities that you've worked with or you consider working with to kind of maybe donate some of your pieces or something like that? Have you kind of ever thought of doing things like that?
Yeah, so I have worked with quite a few charities now. I've worked with in my first year, it was RSPCA, Dogs Trust. There's a local charity in Leicester called Memphis, which isn't wildlife orientated, but I just really wanted to help out those guys. But we have just got, so I'll be working with WWF for Earth Day in March, and that's going to be a great collab because it's like it's just going to be really great to do something that's actually going to make like a really great difference. And yeah, I'm really excited for that. So moving forwards, my goal for this year is sort of having more charities, like more charity collaborations, and having like just like almost like a public event. So like people, it's just to really scream the importance of our wildlife. I think we're in a world where we're losing like obviously with all this AI coming out, with all crypto NFTs and all that, we're linked to our phones constantly. I mean, I'm a sucker for it. I've got my phone on me all the time. And I think sometimes we forget just to go outside and smell the roses. And with my artwork, because with my artwork, that's kind of what I want to, don't forget, ice caps, we're going to lose polar bears if we carry on, like, and it's so silly, but like it kind of gets swept under the rug a little bit. And that's kind of the mission for this year, is just really raising funds and doing great public events to make people stop in their tracks a little bit. So
oh, brilliant, that sounds great. And you mentioned NFTs as well in your in when you were just talking. Then is that something you've considered, or have you kind of dismissed doing those and things?
I think there's a lot of scams out there, so it's quite hard to. I'm definitely not educated enough in the NFT area to even know like what the environmental impacts of, because they have to like mine it, I think, something like, or is that crypto? And I don't actually know the environmental impact on that. So I think it would be quite hypocritical of me to maybe do it if there was a big sort of CO2 release or something like that. So, but again, I'm not very educated, so I could be completely wrong. But that's probably why I wouldn't consider it right now. So, I just think there's something really beautiful about a physical piece of artwork in your home, and I just don't quite understand the concept of it. And maybe I will in a few years. Maybe my brain's a little bit behind. But I just think I just think there's something beautiful about having a physical original piece in your home. And I just don't quite get
that tangible
thing. I don't quite get it. So that's I would consider it right now.
I don't think you're alone. I don't think you're alone in the not getting it. I think lots of people don't get it. So with the galleries, you don't work with galleries at the moment. Is that something you might consider in future, or is that completely off the table? And just kind of, I'd like to know a bit about the thought process behind not deciding not to. Is it just to have complete control over your distribution and that sort of thing?
I'd say that's pretty much right. I think, again, from my swimming background, I've always been in control of my own projection of my own future. And I have heard some horror stories, I guess, of like sort of like just like print quality not being there, people not hand finishing their own prints and public selling them and stuff like that. And it doesn't quite sit well with me. And also, I guess when I first started, I was like, I can't really afford to give the gallery that amount of commission. I couldn't. I needed that, and I would rather donate 20% of it to a wildlife charity than lose, say, 55% of that to a gallery. So that was kind of my thought process of it. I thought I could do more good donating some, and then using the other sort of, say the gallery would say it was 50-50, and normally they're not, it's a bit less than that, but say I donated 20% to charity, and then I used the rest for like adverts on Instagram. So I normally, like when I used to advertise on Instagram, I'd put, say, I don't know, £200 into it over 4 days, and that wouldn't I would gain so much more myself. I'd gain more followers, I'd gain a better target audience, and I would just gain a lot more than giving that away to a gallery. But I think there's definitely a place for galleries still. Even though I don't work with them, there 100% is. There's a couple that I absolutely would love to work with. Just when the time is right, that would be great to do that. But I think there's something beautiful about walking along the high street, or going to a big event and seeing physical artwork up on the wall in the gallery and being able to be like, I want that. That speaks to me. I want that to be in my home. Just right now in my current timeline, I've just not found the right one to partner with or work with. But maybe one day, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, it is that thing about if you have your own show. Have you ever done a
Mm.
big show where you've exhibited all your work in one go? Have you done that?
Um, so this year is the first year I'll be doing that, and I believe hopefully it will be sort of like end of summertime. And I'm currently doing it
Fantastic.
on my own, so I'll have to go rent out a space or get someone on board, which who has a cool because I want a really cool space. So I'm like, so yeah,
Yeah.
and I think and I like yeah, and I like the fact that I kind of have full control of how the show's going to go. So there's got not going to be anyone saying, that's not within budget, or that's not here, or that's we don't want to do that, we want to do this, or we don't want to invite these people, or anything like that. And I quite like the idea of having that full control. But then equally, if you've got a great gallery on board with you, normally like they're very welcome to all your ideas anyway, and like how you want things to go. And so yeah, this year like it is on my own, but who knows, it could be with a gallery if one popped up and it was the right one. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's very
Exciting.
exciting. I mean, searching
Yeah.
for a space, yeah, search, searching for a space, I think sounds really fun. Like, oh, where can I
Mm.
find a nice space to put all my lovely pictures?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's
That sounds
it.
great.
And it's like, yeah, and it's almost like I've got this thing where I'm like, oh, do I do my first show in Leicester at home? And I know it's going to be absolutely rammed if I do that. Or do we go London and find a really cool, quirky space and really go for it? So I've of course almost got that flexibility of that. And it's not necessarily, I just want my artwork up on the wall so people can come and see it. Like that's all
Yeah,
it is to it. And I want to have a theme and have that theme, reflect the mission of where we're going. And it's yeah, so I suppose it doesn't really matter where it is, as long as people come and see the artwork in person. So yeah, it's
yeah,
exciting for sure. I've just got to crack on painting. That's the
yeah.
main thing. So
It sounds like maybe Leicester first, and then go on to London.
yeah, like I've got such a great sort of support system here in Leicester, like all the sort of business networking circle, everybody in Leicester. Obviously, I've got all my friends and family here as well. They've really,
Yeah,
really helped me, especially like um, almost look at it in a way that I'd never even look at it before, and like give me ideas that I would never have even considered myself as an artist. So I think doing it somewhere local might be quite nice, just to be like, yeah, thank you, enjoy, sort of thing. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And like, yeah, saying thank you to people who've supported you and helped you, and just
Mm.
it's such a fun thing to have a private view, isn't it? I don't know if you've been to many, but it's just sometimes they can be real parties and just like
Yeah,
a really
yeah,
great celebration. So yeah,
that's it. I've been to a couple of private views, and they've always been really good. And I'm like, oh, I need to do something like this. And yeah, so yeah, that's the plan. So yeah, busy year this year, but yeah, I'm really, really excited for it. So.
fantastic. And you also mentioned just before we started chatting that you're going to do an art fair. Isn't it a couple of weeks, did you say?
Yeah, it's at the other art fair. I think it's sponsored by Saatchi Art. Just at the Truman Brewery in Shoreditch, London. Yeah, it's in
Okay.
3 weeks' time. So yeah, I'll be having a couple of pieces there at the fair. So that's really exciting. It will be sort of one of my first times out in the public. um, so hopefully it all goes
Yeah.
well, and I don't get and all my organisation skills get a bit more up to scratch, and it works out. So
Yeah, you mentioned you're frantically kind of trying to finish off pieces at the moment. Is there kind of some sort of theme that you've got going on for this fair, or is it just you're just kind of going for it and
it's
just whatever kind of
I'm
comes
just
into your
kind of
head?
yeah, that's it. I'm just kind of going for it. I thought, do you know what? I want a little bit. I want a little bit of everything when I'm there. I want, the African animals. I want an endangered animal. I've even got a dinosaur coming. So it's like I wanted a little bit of crazy from each area of the animal kingdom,
Yeah,
just to really sort of show what I do. And there's sort of no animal off limits. And I think all animals should be appreciated, including the ones that aren't endangered as well. And our wild world is a really beautiful place. And yeah, that's kind of the idea of going to the show. I just wanted to really show that. And yeah, so hopefully it's well received.
Oh, I'm sure it will be. Sounds amazing. Sounds like it's going to be really fun, and you're going to meet some really cool people there. And it's nice to meet other artists as well. You mentioned when we first started talking that you have a few artist friends, and is that correct? So you kind of, they give you advice and things like that.
Yeah, it's really nice. So, yeah, in Leicester, we've got a really great community of about 6, 7 artists, and some of us do it full time, some of us don't. But even the ones who don't, they're like way more experienced than me, and it's so nice just like sitting across them as sort of friends and being able to support each other in like different ways. So obviously, I'm quite social media based, so I'm very, very happy to sort of give out my experience and like my tips and tricks on social media, and they're more like traditional ways. So they work with galleries, they do these like these shows and these fairs and these exhibitions, and it's almost like you learn off each other, and you're also mates.
Yeah.
So it's really nice. Leicester's a really good. It's not, you would never think, oh my gosh, Leicester, like it's the art capital of the country, but we've got such a good little like gang going on here, and it's nice. It's a bit of a community. So obviously being an artist is quite a lonely
Yeah.
job. So having other people in the space that you can lean on and talk to, and even just go around, and see their studio for a coffee the odd time is really nice. So yeah, they're good eggs.
Where did you meet them all?
Weirdly, so I met a couple just over Instagram, and we kind of just like found each other. And it's happened a lot with a few artists. That's, I'd say, how I've met most artists. We just like connect on Instagram, get chatting, and then it's like, oh well, I saw you're based in Leicester. That's cool. So I'm based in Leicester too. Can I come and see your studio? And you're like, yeah. And that's kind of how it goes. And then they introduce you to, the other artists, and then all of a sudden you're able to have a Christmas meal with them. You're not having a Christmas meal on your own.
Oh, brilliant.
So like every other self-employed person.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really nice. So yeah, it's a really good community. I'm very grateful for it. So yeah.
Oh, fantastic. And so what kind of what are the most difficult points that you've had in your art career so far? What are the challenges that you've had that you've really kind of had to really push yourself to get
Uh,
through?
yeah, I'd say I've had a few. Burnout's a big one. When I first started, I just didn't take any time off.
Okay.
And I was just constantly like, what I would paint, I was just not happy with, or even just getting to the point of painting, like I just couldn't do it. So I've learned that because I'm quite an extroverted person, this job actually doesn't suit me at all. And I need to fill up my evenings with either gym, a sport, or seeing friends. Otherwise, so like I just get quite drained throughout the day. But thankfully now I have got a studio assistant who comes in part time, and she's really nice. I actually work better I paint better when she's in, when she's not in. So yeah, I need to make a full time, maybe one day. Fingers crossed if I can ever afford it. But yeah, I definitely say like burnout and loneliness is a big one. And also I'd say like imposter syndrome, and that's a big one. Like changing identity from swimmer to artist, and like having the responsibilities of a studio, and maybe getting a couple of followers sort of on Instagram and stuff. And then it was really weird. I stopped in the coffee shop like the other day, just in Leicester, someone who in Leicester follows me, and it was like a really weird experience. And it's like, what, like it's just like you can't quite like believe, but that's social media. Like it's crazy. Like it's just a weird place. And yeah, I definitely say they're the hardest things. Like just like believing you can go all the way, but yeah, I think everyone has moments like that where they don't quite believe they can fulfill their dreams. But I always say dream big, and if you get halfway, it's not bad going, is it? So yeah, we'll
Absolutely. That's a good way to think about it. Absolutely. With your social media and you starting out with that, what kind of tips can you give an artist who's maybe just starting and doesn't really know how to approach putting their work on social media? Because that's your main thing is social media. That's how you've powered your business and got your work out there. So what kind of things can you say to people if they want to get their work on social media and want to kind of make those sales and start their business?
Yeah, I could give some quite a few tips actually. I'd say the first one is if someone lands on your Instagram, it needs to look aesthetic. Like if I land, you say your video's gone viral, I click on your profile, but your profile's all mixed and matched with different styles and just not very good pictures, I'll click off and won't follow you.
Yeah.
So just got to make sure that your profile is aesthetic, it looks nice, and having, I think they say free swipes. So having enough content for free swipes, they say is what you want to be going for. I'd say posting quality over quantity. Like there's a lot of people that are like, oh, post every day, you'll get loads of followers. No, like post quality and your engagement to that post will be higher. Therefore, when you post again, it will get pushed further again. Whereas if you're posting every day, I would rather take one viral video every month that's great quality and get all these new followers than be posting every day with that, like maybe 20 people would see it. So I definitely say like focus on creating good videos, and also almost like copying who you admire, but don't copy them where it's like, oh my gosh, they're copying Danielle Tomlinson, but be like, right, this is my artwork. I do traditional realism or something like that. Danielle's video of where she spins around and shows her artwork, that's gone viral. And then, oh, that's, she used that sound, and sort of like replicating it in that way really, really helped me find the people you admire and putting your own twist on it. There's a recipe for a reason. Follow the recipe, and you can change the flavor of it if you want, and it will work eventually. People like short form videos, so, and keeping it sort of short form below 15 seconds really helps as well. And just really getting your face on there. Like there's so many people who are fantastic artists, but you just don't know what they look like. Yeah. And it almost like separates the, like, people buy your artwork because it's an emotional thing and they want to invest into you as well and your mission. But if they don't know what you look like they're not as invested, and it's horrible and it's cringy when you first start doing it. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm too shy for this. But the more you get in front of the camera, the easier it gets, and the more people trust you. Like it's so random to buy some artwork online over Instagram. Like I remember when I first started, I was like, how, if I was buying artwork over online, like what would make me trust this person to give them, firstly, to maybe want to buy their artwork, and secondly, hand over some money for it. And it's like, if their face isn't on there, like that's a big thing. Yeah. So yeah, just little things like that. Like there's just so many sort of small tips and tricks that I have. I could probably make a course on it in all honesty. But yeah, your face, talking about why you do it, and yeah, just following the recipe that's already out there. Like there's so much out there that you can
brilliant
replicate. So,
that's really
sorry, that was
no, it's great. It's really helpful. I think just anyone listening, I think that's just great tips for kind of any business, really, isn't it? And any kind of, because people want to know the story and they want to see your face, and that's kind of how you connect with people, and that's how we connect with each other as humans is through stories and through kind of that kind of recognizing someone's face as well. So yeah, that's really useful.
That's it.
You're really useful advice. And you're on Instagram and you're on Facebook. So you mentioned Facebook was easier to start off with. Was that kind of a case of, did you do any advertising when you first started? How did people find you on Facebook?
So yeah, I thought Facebook is, so when I sat down and I took my notepad and I thought, who's gonna like my artwork? Who are they? To the point where I wrote down their age, their name, like their marriage status, their job, and all this. And I was like, where are these people gonna hang out? Like, how am I gonna build a community and of these certain type of people? And I was like, well, Facebook's great because Facebook has groups, and groups are essentially your target audience all hanging out together. And guess what? it's free. I've got no money to put into this, so it's free advertising. And I literally just posted into these Facebook groups, saying, you know, this is hi, my name's Danielle Tomlinson. You know, I paint wildlife because from a child I've loved it.
Yeah.
And guess what? Everyone in that group also loved wildlife when they were children, and that's how I grew. I didn't necessarily always make, like, the idea wasn't to make sales. The idea was to make a community, and that's how I grew my Facebook page. I think I only got to like 5,000 followers before I then hit on Instagram. But yeah, Instagram's a little bit harder. It takes a little bit more time and money. But Facebook's such a great place to start, just for free, literally free advertising. And you can make I then made a private group on Facebook, which essentially every time I posted in it, people get notified. And I think that's great as well. I think Instagram has their version now. I think it's called a broadcast or something like that, channel or something like that. I've not done one yet. Yeah. Essentially it's the same thing. So that's kind of how I started and why I started on Facebook rather than Instagram.
That's really, really useful knowledge for people who want to get their work out there. I think it's very, very helpful to kind of start. And you really came at it from this business sort of point of view, which is fascinating, because often artists kind of do it the other way around almost. So they kind of they don't kind of think of it straight away to kind of start like that. And it's kind of as we've spoken about, is what you have to do if you are serious about it and you want to kind of live off it. That's just the mentality you have to have, and it's just the work that you have to do. So I think it's really fascinating that you've done that. In terms of quantity, I always think this is a really interesting question, because I think when you're first starting out, if you are coming from, say, if you wanted to switch careers and become an artist and a full time, and you needed to know kind of how many paintings you need to make, can you give me like a rough figure a month? I know this is a weird question, but I just think in terms of quantity and kind of getting your work out there, it's an interesting one. So how much do you produce, do you think?
I think it's one of those questions where I hate to say it, it's like, how long is a piece of string? Like some months I'll create like maybe like 7 paintings, and then other months I'll create like 1 or 2. But I always I'm a big believer in it. Every time I create something, I like to create a big hype around it. So I've got this awful problem though, where I've never got much on the website for people to actually sort of have. So maybe I need to paint more than what I do. that's my problem. But I'd say the average probably like, maybe, depends, if I've got commissions on, maybe like 4 or 5 a month. I'd say is what I do. Maybe 4, more realistic. It really depends how big they are, because if I'm doing a big one like that, like that would take like the whole, like that would be like my month's project sort of thing. But really depends. I just think, like, don't ever be forced to create loads, especially if you partner with a gallery and they're like, right, we want 16 artworks from you a month. Like, that's a lot of work, and you're going to be pretty shattered. Sorry about that.
No, it was a dinosaur.
Revving their engine outside. Literally.
It's a lion in your studio.
But, literally, honestly, we couldn't find that. But definitely. Just don't paint too much. I just don't burn yourself out. But that would be my biggest thing.
I think that's really useful, kind of figures wise, because that kind of marries up with, I spoke to someone last week who runs an online gallery, and he was asking for people to, like, as a really kind of benchmark thing, to maybe give him 1 piece a week. And I think that's a good kind of thing to be able to sort of aim for, maybe. Just in terms of, because I think when you're first starting out, you're like, I don't know how much I need to make to be able to earn a living off it. Like, and if you're really kind of being serious
Yeah.
about that, how, you just don't know, do you? You just have no idea. You're just like, oh, I
No.
don't know.
And it's not really much out there either. Like I remember when I first started, I was like, how much do I charge? Like that's a
Yeah, I was
massive
just about
thing
to
that
ask you
you
that.
just don't like. How much does an emerging artist? Yeah, like how much does an emerging artist or new artist charge? Like, and I
Yeah.
think it just, I think you have to look at your artwork quite clearly, not with rose tinted glasses, and maybe
Okay.
compare it to what's out there, and then reflect your price in that way. That's kind of how I did it. And I think my artwork was very fairly priced when I first started. And then obviously, the more you're selling, the more busier you get, the more followers you get. Like there's only a certain amount you can paint, and
Yeah.
then like you got to reflect, it in that way. And you're like, I can't be painting, 24 hours a day, so I need to slightly raise my price, and that's kind of how I did it. Yeah, it's hard though. Like I do remember, like just looking, I'm like, what do people charge? Like I don't know, and I think it's just something you've got to figure
Yeah.
out for yourself and make sure you give yourself a fair wage. Like that's another thing. A lot of artists undercut themselves. So
Absolutely. And also, I suppose with you do prints as well, don't you? You sell prints, and that's kind of something that is a bit more, it's kind of a bit like passive income almost, because you've got one image that you can reproduce a few times. So that's kind
yeah,
of another income stream that you can have as an artist.
yeah. It's definitely not the print side of things. Definitely not as big as what I would like it to be. Just because I think there's something really nice about. I've got a few people where they just buy loads of prints and then just decorate their whole house in prints of my artwork, and I love that. I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic, and I would love like that to happen like a lot more. And I guess my little business brain is like, well, how do I improve that? Like, how do I get more people doing that so the whole of the UK is covered in my wildlife art? And everyone's just obsessed with wildlife. Like, how do I get more wildlife in people's homes? So that's sort of like my mission for this year. It's sort of figuring that and
I like
making just
that.
art really accessible for everyone. Yeah, like I want it to be
Yeah.
accessible for everybody, and I want everyone to have wildlife in their homes. And I think it's a great thing as well to have when you've got children. I think it's a beautiful thing to have up on the walls, because I know
Yeah.
that we had some wildlife artwork up when I was growing up, and I think that definitely helped sort of the magicalness of like just lions, rhinos, elephants, polar bears, like all that stuff. Like there is something like really beautiful about them, and yeah, they should be honoured, I think.
But and also you don't get
Yeah.
to see those type of creatures when you're a kid in England. So
Mm.
it's a lovely thing to have a representation of those types of animals around your home. So you can be like, this exists here to a kid.
Yeah, and I feel as well when we become adults, we kind of lose that passion. Well, some of us lose that passion for like the wildlife and animals and dinosaurs we had when we were kids, and we thought they were amazing. And it's like, how do we not lose that passion for wildlife when we're adults? So yeah, that's something I'm trying to figure out. And it's funny actually. You paint a dinosaur or you'll paint like a massive like tiger, and then like people you never thought would be interested in this sort of art are like, oh my gosh, I love it. And it's like it's even better when people come to me and they've got offices and they were like, I want a big piece for my office. And I'm like, that's fantastic, because all I'm thinking about is how many people are walking into your office who are going to see that piece every day, and it's just gonna promote wildlife even more. So yeah, that's kind
Yeah.
of like the mission and the idea with it all. And yeah, I hope I can keep doing it for a very long time and actually make a real physical difference. So yeah.
Fantastic. Are there any other things that you think might be helpful for artists maybe starting out, or who maybe are struggling to get their work out there? Are there any other tips that you can give, or have we covered them all? I don't know if we have.
I'm just trying to rack my brain. I'd definitely say like social media is the biggest one.
Yeah.
TikTok's pretty big as well. I need to get on TikTok. I'd say TikTok's easier to grow on than Instagram.
Yeah.
I think every business like should have TikTok. So I definitely say TikTok, Instagram, Facebook are all your main ones. Even LinkedIn. Like I have a LinkedIn, and the amount of sort of like useful connections you make on there you don't necessarily it's not about making sales, but just like about connecting with people in the space. So there's a lot of people on there from like WWF or Tusk or, these big organizations and charities who I find I would want to work alongside and make a difference with. LinkedIn's a great place for that. And just because I remember when I first made a LinkedIn and I was like, I feel like why would I have this? This is for people who have businesses and aren't going to be interested in art. And yeah, like I said, it's not about sales. It's just about connecting with like people who are like-minded to you. And just because you're an artist doesn't necessarily mean you can't have it. Like you still can have it. So yeah, LinkedIn's a great one as well. I definitely say that. Just get out there and don't be scared. I think that's another thing. So many people are like scared of what other people are going to say and be like, oh, she's so cringy online, or like, oh, her artwork's bad or anything. You kind of become like numb to it. Like I still get the odd bad comment. And it's a bit sad I am numb to it, but I'm also like, I don't really like, once you get one bad comment, it's kind of like the rest is the same. And it's like, well, I don't really mind because this artwork isn't for you. So you just carry on doing it. And yeah, just having a bit of a backbone about that sort of thing and really believing in yourself, and not being shy to post what you want to do. And, you're in control of your own life. So yeah.
I think that's really useful phrase, and it's something that people can really bear in mind, is that phrase of this isn't for you. If you're not enjoying this, it's not for you. It's not aimed at you.
Yeah.
So then it kind of gives you the ability to just sort of move on from that, because your artwork isn't going to be for everyone. It's not going to be universal. There's people who don't like the look of Van Gogh's paintings, or really famous artists. They're like, oh no, I hate that. It's just not everything's for everyone. So that's just the way it is. Exactly. And that's okay.
I think it's about looking into yourself with that as well, and being like, I don't like everything. And if somebody doesn't like my artwork, that's completely fine. I'm not going to take offense to it. But then there is people who will actively tell you they don't like your artwork, and you've got to be like, that's fine. That is fine. But I'm going to continue doing it anyway. And, the people who do like it make it worth it anyway. And I'm hopefully making a difference as well. So, just not being scared of that. Like, it's fine. Rejection's fine. Yeah. Like, it's part of life. So.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to get
make it any easier, but
it's a hard thing to get your head around, isn't it? And also the time that people take sometimes to post these negative comments. You're like, what? Why haven't you got something better to do than do this?
Yeah, that's the first thing you say. You think like honestly, and it's normally like it's just normally people unhappy in that. I would never dream of telling someone I didn't like their artwork. I'd never do it, and I definitely wouldn't go on social media and do it either. And I just think like normally people are quite unhappy with themselves. They feel the need to voice these things, and I think as long as you remind yourself that, post your artwork, post cringy videos of you spinning around on social media. Like, if you want to do this, you need to, take the reins and just do it and not be scared of it. And obviously take on criticism when it comes, like healthy criticism when it comes in, but also like, just be yourself and be genuine and authentic to yourself, and it doesn't matter if people like it or not. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Danielle. That's brilliant. And just a last thing, I just want you to remind everyone where your work's going to be shown at the art fair.
Yeah, I think I'm like stand 40. It's in the Truman Brewery in Shoreditch, London, and it's the 7th to the 10th of March. So yeah, come swing by, come say hey. Brilliant. And yeah, there'll be lots of artwork on the walls, so hopefully by then anyway.
Absolutely. It sounds like it'll be a great thing to visit. So yeah, good luck with it. And it's been wonderful to chat to you today. Thank you so much for all of your openness and advice and sharing your journey. It's so useful to everyone, and it's just really fascinating as well. So thank you for that. And thanks again. And take care.
Thanks for having me. Cheers. Bye. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye. What a fantastic chat with Danielle that was. I think there's so many insights in there about how to start business as an artist, how to really focus yourself, and all the methods that you can use to get your work out there into the world and being bought by people and making that connection with people. So hope you enjoy this episode. Again, please go to becominganartist.co.uk to download all the resources from this episode and all the other episodes. Also, don't forget to subscribe on whatever you're listening or watching to this episode on. Whether it's YouTube or Spotify, whatever, please subscribe to this podcast. It helps me to make more of them and chat to more artists and give you more insights into how you can become an artist. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode and keep creating.